Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But before we get into that, I got to give a big shout out to David Hatch and Alex Inkster. They've both been supporting us on Patreon for months now, and they continue to do so. And I'm really just so excited to say thank you. You help keep the lights on. You help purchase equipment, set up events, other things. You help keep the blood of PCP going. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, David. Thank you, Alex. And thanks to all the rest of our patrons. You can join them over at patreon.com/PCP and unlock exclusive content, including the PCP After Hours podcast and early access to this very video, this very show, the weekly comic book review in a downloadable audio format available hours before it releases here on YouTube. So if you can't wait and you want to help support the channel, unlock some cool perks and join us over at patreon.com/PCP. Now back to the weekly comic book review. It's always starting with the pick of the week. And this week's pick of the week, Strange Adventures #1 from DC Comics. DC Black Label, to be specific about it. This book was fantastic. Strange Adventures is an Adam Strange story written by Tom King. It's got artwork by Doc Shaner and Mitch Gerrits. It's got two stories going on. One is kind of set a little bit in the past. One is, I guess, more current, you should say. And they each kind of reflect on each other. This was a really great book, and I really liked it. The dichotomy of the story. The Doc Shaner story feels a little bit more classic sci-fi. The Mitch Gerrits one feels a little bit more modern, a little bit more gritty and grounded into reality. And I really liked it. So basically, the premise of this book is that Adam Strange, who is an Earthman who travels via Zeta Beam occasionally to the planet Rann, there he is like one of their military heroes, right? And so there's this invasion from this alien force, and he has to help fight them off, and it's not really going so well. Meanwhile, cut to the different story, he's on Earth, it's after that war, he's written a book, he's getting very popular, and all of a sudden he gets hit with these accusations of murder and corruption and all kinds of stuff like that. So he's dealing with this big media fallout there. Meanwhile, that other story is telling us a more classically fueled story, but also kind of getting deep and dark as well. And we don't really know everything that's going on in Strange Adventures #1, but it's definitely something that's going to unravel as these 12 issues progress. This is the first of a 12-issue maxi series. Mitch Gerrits and Doc Shaner have two completely different styles, but it really is very appropriate for the story, so you never get this kind of like jarring back and forth, because the story naturally kind of goes back and forth between these two different vibes, even on the same page at times, and the art really works together. It's a great juxtaposition onto the story. And Tom King, if you read some of his interviews about his ideas for the story now, is he trying to explain this colonialistic lie of sci-fi tales from the past or something like that. Really seems interesting, the way that we can have a weird relationship with heroes and truth and all kinds of stuff like that. So Strange Adventures was a really interesting exploration into a concept using a classic Silver Age sci-fi character that I found very nuanced and poignant and really cool. If you're a fan of Tom King's work, like stuff like Mr. Miracle, The Vision, Omega Men, Sheriff of Babylon, this book's right up your alley for sure. Strange Adventures #1, loved it, made the pick of the week. Speaking of Doctor Strange, or Adam Strange, I should say, Mystery in Space 75 has a facsimile edition out this week. I don't really know the true significance. Maybe this is I know it was voted one of the best sci-fi comic books of 1962, and maybe it's his first full book on his own. Like the Justice League are in here too, but I don't really know the ultra significance of it. But there is a facsimile if you want some of that old school Adam Strange vibe, so pick it up. I will say this though, the DC facsimiles are not near as good as the Marvel ones. The Marvel ones are great paper stock, they're very high quality, colors that pop. These DC ones, they're a little lackluster comparatively, especially for the same price. So I think DC needs to step up their facsimile game if they're going to stay in that game. Flash 750 is here, continuing this trend of extra size anniversary specials. Flash returns to its original numbering, much like Action Comics, Detective Comics, and Wonder Woman did. And this is a big 80-page celebration of all things Flash. It's got the first story in here is set in the current run, and it's Joshua Williamson, and it's a great story. It's the new one. It introduces a new villain named Paradox, and it's lots of cool, interesting concepts, and it's kind of like a new starting point for Flash. So he's been writing this book for like 80-something issues, and Josh Williamson has been a very consistent and very solid writer throughout those 80-something issues. But if you don't want to get bogged down by reading all that, this is actually a decent place to jump in and start the new story. Also, it's got stories by Jeff Johns and Scott Collins involving Wally West and Captain Cold from kind of their era of Flash. You got Francis Manapul telling a story that feels modern, but it's still, you know, his artwork was the artwork from the New 52 run, and it really, like, if you liked his artwork in that, like I did, that's why I got his cover. Lots of variants for this too, decade-specific variants. This is the 2010s variant by Manapul. That story was really cool. There's a Marv Wolfman story. There's a Brett Booth and Scott Lobdell's story that is an epilogue to Flash Forward. So at the end of Flash Forward, Wally West sat on the Mobius chair and was imbued with the powers of Dr. Manhattan. So now he can see all of space and time and reality and all the multiverse, all the crisis events. He can see everything, and he can see the cracks and where it's all messed up and where things are leaking in and all this kind of stuff, right? There is setup in here for 5G, but as we discussed on this week's last live stream, the future of 5G in DC seems to be a little bit kind of shaky and unclear right now. However, this stuff was already printed. There is also a Jay Garrick story in here by Joshua Williamson that's really cool and promises to kind of lead into some things coming up into Flash this year. It also has a mention of Wonder Woman existing in the Golden Age, which is another 5G type thing. So that stuff is in here. The Wally West bit at the end by Scott Lobdell, that's going to blossom into that Free Comic Book Day issue and become more spinning out of that, probably tying into Death Metal and how everything's supposed to eventually coalesce into one thing again, and we'll see what happens, right? However, Flash 750 was one of these as far as these exercise celebrations of heroes they've done, Action Comics and Detective Comics 1000, Wonder Woman 750, this was one of my favorite ones because I legitimately thought each story in here was really solid. And that was something I didn't think about any of those other three books. Every story in here was something I really enjoyed from a classic Flash team. This was a great celebration of the life and legacy and legend of Barry Allen, the Flash, and the Flash family. I loved it. Thought it was cool. 750 from the Flash. There you go. Batman number 90 is out this week, continuing this story about the designer and this new run by James Tynion. This has got artwork by Jorge Jimenez. The artwork in here, too, especially with Tomo Morey's art coloring, fantastic. So freaking good. This is a very interesting issue, and I liked it a lot. In fact, I would say that it's my favorite issue of Tynion's run yet. For sure. I really liked it. This issue is nothing but a bunch of explaining. It's Catwoman explaining to Bruce who the designer is, how she and Penguin and Riddler and Joker came to make this grand plan with them, and what's coming out, and it's all blowing up now in Bruce's face. This is the Catwoman secret that will tear them apart. You know, they could definitely be laying those seeds to kind of start the split up of Selina and Bruce. But the artwork was dynamic. I loved it so much, and even though it was just a bunch of exposition, that's something James Tynion handles very well, and he does it so well in here. And it's got some knowing what's coming with the Joker War and how, you know, we know that there's going to be some Joker stuff that jumps out of this. There's some moments in here with the Joker that are very interesting and worth paying attention to. Anyway, Batman number 90 is out this week. No punchline. No punchline. But it is a really solid issue, probably better than any of the other ones Tynion's done yet since he's jumped onto the main title. Superman Villains is here. It's a one-shot. Kind of like the Superman Heroes one-shot. That was showing the hero community's reaction to Superman revealing his identity as Clark Kent. This is kind of the same thing, but on the villain side, it's mostly set up for some stories coming up in Action Comics for Superman, or I should say coming up. However, this book was running late, so those stories have actually already started, including the Mongol story and Superman and the Lex Luthor attacking Metropolis in Action Comics. But there is some other developments in here, especially involving the Daily Planet, that will definitely reverberate out into all the Superman books coming in the coming months. So if you've been liking Superman stuff, and if you're following that, I think there's some essential bits in here. Otherwise, you're going to be like, when did that happen? But Superman Villains is okay. I mean, I'm just not liking this whole thing with Superman revealing his identity. It doesn't feel organic and natural. It feels a little forced and out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like it has the gravity or importance that it should. I don't know. It's just not really been doing much for me. But this is, I guess, okay. But if you are following the Superman stuff, you definitely want to check out what goes on in there, because some big things happen as far as its ongoing story goes. Justice League number 42 is here. Justice League's kind of becoming a little just kind of a little boring. a little mediocre, a little just of the norm and average. You know, I want a big, giant, cosmic, epic Justice League run, and I can't complain too much because we just had one, and it's not even over yet because it's spilling out into death metal, right? But this is a little bit more of a pedestrian approach to the Justice League story, and it's okay. It's got the Eradicator in it, and I think that's what's really kept me engaged for 3 issues, but after this one, I just don't know. It's got decent writing, it's got decent artwork, but it's just not doing anything extra for me. And on Justice League, I want something big and epic like Grant Morrison or Scott Snyder or even the Jeff Johns stuff. But this one's just not doing much for me. It doesn't really do anything with the characters, and it doesn't really do anything supremely different and unique with the story. It's got some interesting ideas, and like I said, it uses the Eradicator, and I will always pay attention when the Eradicator is around. However, Justice League 42, just getting it's a little stale for me. Just a little bit stale. Superman's got his second issue of his DC 100-page giant. It's got some new stories. It's got some reprints of some old classic stories. Not super classic. They're more modern, I should say, to be honest with you. But these are really fun treats to revisit classic Super Family books and to get a little bit of new content. Maybe just get them and read them and share them around with people, something like that, right? Daphne Burn, number 3, is here from Hill House Comics, part of DC Black Label. Daphne Burn's probably, in my opinion, the weakest of the Hill House comics so far, but it's not saying too much. I think they're all really good for what they're doing. Daphne Burn number 3 gets a lot more interesting to me and a little bit more clear. So basically got this young lady, and she's like haunted by this ghost, and so they got their thing going on, and then her mom's kind of addicted to going to go see this like fake fortune teller, and then there's something nefarious going on there. Then you got Kelly Jones's artwork. Kelly Jones's artwork it's got that classic vibe to it. It's awkward. It's absurd. It feels wrong at times and utterly creepy at other times. I like Jones's artwork. I always have. So I kind of dig on Daphne Burn. Like I said, to me, it's the weakest of all the Hill House books, but it's not saying too much. They all kind of stand on their own, doing their own thing. But Daphne Burn number 3 is definitely, I thought, a little bit stronger of an issue than 2 and issue number 1. Let's jump over to Marvel Comics. Strange Academy number 1. Strange Academy is a book that I was in no way looking forward to at all. In fact, we got like an early PDF of this like a month ago, and I didn't even read it because I was just so uninterested in this idea. The idea is that in the Marvel Universe now they're going to have a Hogwarts. Doctor Strange has opened up a school. It's run by Brother Voodoo, and I can't remember her name, but that lady that's been in recent issues of Doctor Strange. And it's got a whole new cast of characters, and it's written by Scotty Young. It's got artwork by Humberto Ramos, and I just was not looking forward to it. This book was cool. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun with this book. All these characters are new characters, most of them I'm sure, but they all have really interesting connections to different parts of the Marvel Universe. For instance, you got the evil son of Dormammu there. It feels and is very reminiscent of something like Jason Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men. A little bit of Harry Potter infused into it, but I liked it. I actually thought it was cool. It's written by Scotty Young, and Humberto Ramos' artwork is so solid. Now, if Ramos is no longer doing the art after a few issues, the quality may seem to dip. Like, I really think that his artistic style was essential to this book. It worked so well, especially with Scotty Young's writing. I really liked it. I was blown away. I thought this was a really cool, fun issue. So if it's a light week for you and you're looking around and you're thinking about Strange Academy, maybe check it out, because I was pleasantly surprised with this one, with how much I liked it. Because I usually like, is there a new character? Who cares, right? I liked it. I liked it. All the new characters were very interesting. The setup was interesting. It obviously is an X-Men meets Hogwarts type thing, but it still worked, and it worked very well. So Strange Academy number 1 is out this week. Marvel number 1 is out. This is the first part of a 6-part anthology series spearheaded by Alex Ross. So it's got a story in there at the beginning by Alex Ross that has Nightmare in it, and seeing Alex's take on Nightmare was absolutely awesome. That was amazing. It's got a Spider-Man story in there. It's got some really cool artwork, but the story itself is kind of decent, but the execution just gets a little bit muddy, but the artwork was really solid. Then it's got a very classic Silver Age feeling story in there involving the Hulk and the Avengers and Rick Jones. It's written by Kurt Busiek with artwork by Steve Rude, so if you know those creators, you know what you're getting into. So if you like classic, fun Marvel stuff, you feel like different takes on characters, different perspectives, different art styles, definitely check this out. I think it's pretty solid. And if you're an Alex Ross fan, you definitely want to check it out just to see his Nightmare pages, because oh my goodness, they are absolutely amazing. SpiderMan Noir number 1 is out this week, first part of a new miniseries written by Margaret Stohl with artwork by Juan Ferreira. I am a huge Juan Ferreira fan. As we've been talking about on this channel over the last couple years, every time this cat does a book, I absolutely fall in love with his artwork. He's got a great sense of composition, of movement and action and flow. He's got a very dynamic style, and he's also got this just beautiful textured coloring that he does. This is the SpiderMan Noir book, so it's obviously mostly black and white, but there are little nuances of color here and there that are very effective when they pop out. The artwork is amazing, and I've been talking about it so much, so let me show you what exactly I'm talking about. For instance, there's a nice double page spread. Look at that motion. Look at the composition. This art in this book is so amazing. The story's all right. It's your typical cliche 40s detective noir type story, but that's exactly what this is aiming to be. But the artwork is the big seller of this. If you're a big fan of Ferreira's artwork like I am, you definitely should pick this up. Get this cat on a Blade book. Get this cat on a Blade book. Marauders number 9 is out this week from the Dawn of X titles. Marauders has been one of my favorites, and this is another great issue. It's got a nice spotlight on Pyro, and it's a little silly and fun as far as that goes, but it's also really getting into the character of Emma. Emma is a character who's grown a lot since the early 90s in those days with Generation X, all the way through the Morrison run and the Fraction and the Gillen stuff, into today, right? Emma's gone through a lot of changes, and you start seeing some of the cracking there in these pages. I really like this book. I think it's a great team, and I'm a big fan of Pyro on this team, and if I would have ever thought that I was going to be so just sold on Pyro being part of an X team, I would have called you a liar. This book is so much fun. I really like it, and with the ongoing mystery of Kate and what's going on exactly with that, the way that affects Emma, her responsibility she feels, man, that's some really good stuff. Marauders number 9, really solid issue. Excalibur number 8. This, to me, is the least interesting X book. But it's interesting enough for me, because it does have some very cool, compelling stuff, like Apocalypse, what's he up to? In this issue, for instance, and in the last one, he sent Excalibur out to get him 5 werewolf skulls, because he's trying to, like, create some kind of magic ritual or something. He's trying to create a new form of magic for mutants, and it's really interesting, that kind of stuff, right? But then as the missions go on, I'm just like, it's okay. You know, this to me is probably my least favorite X book, but it's still compelling enough for me to keep up with it. I've actually been enjoying all of these X books. I know we got more coming, so if you're thinking about dropping some off, just drop off the ones that you're not really vibing with. Excalibur would be one of the first ones I would cut, but I'm a big Apocalypse fan, and I just can't find myself to stop reading this book because I want to know what's going on there. I really do. Excalibur number 8 is out this week. Daredevil number 19 is here with Inferno, part 1 of 2, Kitchen's Fall. We've been talking on this channel, and I was talking to Bullseye Bob on Everything Comics a couple weeks ago. This book, Chip Zdarsky has been doing the slow build-up over the last few months, the last several issues. And we're like, this is about to blow up. This is the issue where it blows up. And a moment that Zdarsky and company have been building up to since issue number 1 pretty much. It happens. You can see it coming, but it's very impactful. It's a great moment, some great stuff. People right now, Al is just causing people to just tear ass through Hell's Kitchen. They're destroying everything. Cops aren't allowed in there, but some cops refuse that. Plus, you got Marco Cicchetto back on the artwork. Wow. Why did he ever leave? Now, I'm really stoked when Jorge Fornes is on this book. I think his stuff is solid and amazing. But seeing Cicchetto back, that was a super cool thing. The book is awesome. Great coloring. Great moments. Man, Daredevil is just one of Marvel's best books right now. Isn't it? Zdarsky knows what the hell he's doing. Because he's doing it. And he's doing it right. Ironman 2020 is here with issue number 3. I've been getting these mostly because of the covers. Because they do glow in the black light, and that's kind of cool. Plus, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Iron Man 2020 because I had the Spider-Man annual with him in it. And I love those gears. So, this is just the next Iron Man story. You know, if you're just reading this to be like, oh, let me jump in, I think it's not going to do much for you. I quit reading Iron Man like a year ago, and I can follow the story, and it's interesting enough. But it's not, it's just kind of generic. It's okay. It's decent, I guess. There's nothing really super bad about it. Pete Woods' artwork it really shines in certain times. But this is just the next continuation of Iron Man. I don't think this needed to be like an event. You know, they didn't need all these different like little miniseries and one-shots or whatever. And I've said that before or whatever. It just should be the next Iron Man story. However, like I said, I'm kind of obsessed with this character and his costume. I love those gears, and you see a purpose for those gears in this issue. And I love these blacklight covers. Those are just so super cool to me. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. Rescue 2020, though, is one of those obnoxious tie-ins. So this first part of a 2-issue series is actually pretty decent. It spotlights on Rescue, and if you're keeping up with 2020 stuff, read this one before you read the Rescue one, because Ironman 2020 will be spoiled if you read Rescue first. So after the events of this issue, Rescue goes to the rescue. Right? And that's what it is. A nice spotlight on Pepper, her history. I love the references to Happy Hogan. I miss me some Happy Hogan. When I was reading Iron Man comics in the 80s and 90s, I loved Happy for some reason. I really, really did. Anyway, this is cool. It's cool to see her back in the rescue gear. I like the story fine enough, but it doesn't need to be some kind of big crazy event. But anyway, if you're following it, there you go. Miles Morales, number 16 is here. Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Salad and Ahmed and company have been doing a really good job on this book, and they just keep getting better. So this one is split into 2 stories. There's a day story and a night story. So you read the day story, and it's a nice, cute, fun, charming Miles story where he takes his new baby sister out for a walk, and of course he has to become Spider-Man, and it's kind of fun, and it's cute, and then, like I said, it's charming, right? So you read that, and you're like, okay, so the next one's going to be just kind of like the flip side, and maybe like a different story. Man, the next story, don't be fooled by how easy the first story is. The second story is very deep into revealing things about this story, about what's going on with this Goblin character, with Ultimatum, where they come from, what's the connection to the Ultimate Universe, all that kind of stuff. They really start directly confronting that and talking about that, and some big things kind of happen. Not super, super big, but some big things. Things that start getting you going. And I think I know who Ultimatum is now. I really think I do. However, Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 16 is here, and I've really been liking this book a lot under Ahmed and company. And we have Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom number 6. This book sucks. I hate this book so much. I really do. I really like Christopher Cantwell as a writer, but I do not like his Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom and Kang, the way they talk to each other here, I don't know. There's like a level of sophistication that I expect from Dr. Doom and from Kang, and it's been missing in these pages. The story, I guess, is okay, but the characterization of Doom just doesn't work. I would not be reading this book if I was not the most hardcore Dr. Doom fan. And I feel like I would hurt the character in real life. I feel like if I stopped getting this book, I feel like Victor would actually show up from another reality and like kick my ass or something. So maybe I'm just through fear. Like all in Latveria must smile or die, right? But no, Dr. Doom, I'm just not doing it for me, man. If you're not Bob, I was talking about Everything Comics. Bob is a huge Dr. Doom fan just like me. And I think he told me he's done with this book. That's saying a lot. I can't bring myself to let go of it yet because it's also like looking at a train wreck, you know, where you just can't turn your eyes or something. It's kind of almost like an election. Anyway, Dr. Doom number 6, just didn't like it. So let's get to some indies, starting with Join the Future, number 1 from Aftershock Comics, written by Zach Kaplan, Peter Kowalski, Brad Simpson, Hassan Otsman, El Howe. Rounding out that creative team, I did an advanced review of this one, so you can check out that video and get more of my thoughts on this, but this book was an excellent debut. I really, really did like it. It's a sci-fi western, but it doesn't play out like something like Firefly or anything like that. In the not too near and not too distant future, Earth has kind of gotten some of their stuff together, but the way they do it is they build these giant mega cities, right? And in the mega city, everybody's got universal income, and there's health care provided for everyone, and you can just 3D print any furniture you want in your house. You don't have to pay for anything. You get to live a life of leisure and study and exercise, whatever you want to do, right? It's like this utopia, this utopian existence, but it's only available if you live in these giant mega cities. And you get the idea that there's not many of these things out there, and that most of the rest of the world, they're turning to like, you know, nature reserves, and they're introducing animals back into their environment, and they're letting it go wild and free. However, what about the people that don't want to join the mega cities? Well, life gets kind of crappy for them, but also at the same time, a little bit more free. Does that make sense? So you got this dichotomy between these two societies. You got the big mega cities and the people that are like, well, just come here and everything's provided for. Meanwhile, you got these people that are like, they want to live with their freedom. They want to do their own thing. However, now they don't have access to like medicine and medical facilities and cool fun stuff like music and video games and comic books and stuff like that, right? It's definitely more of a frontier way of living now. So you got this weird dichotomy going on between these two different views of what utopia could possibly be, right? And the dangers on both sides, right? And one of my favorite things about this book is that Zach Kaplan doesn't cast judgment on either side. He totally just lays it out there, and it's up for us. It's kind of like V for Vendetta in that way, where you have all these sides, and you know, you don't have any kind of, moralness to it or anything like that. But Join the Future #1 is a really cool concept and idea. The artwork's solid, the coloring's great, the lettering's fantastic, the story is just very engaging, compelling. It's got a hook ending that had me want to come back for more, and this book flew by. It's a dense book, there's a lot of information in here, but it just flew by because it's so well written. I absolutely loved it. Join the Future #1 from Aftershock Comics. Make sure you get on that this week. Also from Boom Studios, we have King of Nowhere #1. It's written by W. Maxwell Prince, who is the writer of Ice Cream Man, so if you like that book, definitely maybe want to check this out. Tyler Jenkins and Hillary Jenkins doing the coloring and the artwork there. I believe they were the artists on Grass Kings with Matt Kent. Anyway, King of Nowhere was a really weird, cool, trippy book. So if you like weird, cool, trippy type stuff, check this out. So it's about this like total just a-hole. This dude who's just a complete, just not a good guy, right? And he always wakes up on the street or in the forest. He never wakes up at home because he's always out drinking and doing crazy drugs and all kinds of stuff, right? So he wakes up in this town, he walks into it, everybody's all weird looking, like this dude with a fish head, this dude with like horse legs, there's all kinds of weird like creatures, and he just thinks, well, I'm still tripping, so I'm just going to ride along with this and go along with it. Now, he ain't tripping. He just wound up in this place called Nowhere where all these crazy, weird people live, and he's just kind of like thrust into this, and I really liked this story. I thought it was cool. Tyler Jenkins' artwork may not be to everybody's taste, but it definitely fits the absurd and psychedelic and weird nature of this story. I really did like it. I thought it was super cool. The writing by W. Maxwell Prince, there's that simpleness of what the story is about. This dude who thinks he's tripping wanders into a town filled with weird fantasy creatures. All right? So that's a decent thing. But with the script, with the narrative, with the story, Prince is saying some stuff. He's saying some interesting stuff, and he's doing some interesting stuff with this character, and I really liked it. King of Nowhere #1. Check it out if you are interested. From Image Comics, we have Outer Darkness Chew #1. This is the first part of a 3-issue miniseries that's a crossover between Outer Darkness and Chew, both comic books created by John Layman. I have never read Chew, and I've only read like the first issue of Outer Darkness. But I decided to read it and see how it did. It was pretty cool. I liked it. Definitely want to read Chew. Definitely want to read Outer Darkness. This made me want to do that even more. They connect them in a cool, fun way. Like I said, I'm not really super plugged into these series, so I still found a lot to enjoy in this book. I found the characters to be interesting. I found the concepts to be interesting. So I definitely do want to go check out Chew and Outer Darkness. A new one from Image is called Mercy. It's from Mirka and Dolfo. I'm not usually a big fan of her work. Not so much with this one either. Just didn't really like it. The story was muddy. It was kind of all over the place, cliche at times. I just couldn't understand it at certain times. Just not my style. Just not my vibe. Maybe it is. I mean, if you like her artwork, if you like her style, I think you'll like this one, but it just wasn't for me. But it is out this week. Mercy #1. Unearth #6. I had no idea this book was coming back. When I was reading the list on the Sunday night live stream, I was really shocked and surprised. Anyway, so the next arc of Unearth starts, and it really jumps forward, and a whole new story starts, and new developments, and new exciting things, and I love this book. It's got body horror, it meets Lovecraft, it's fantastic. I really like it. It's creepy, it's disturbing, and I really like this next level of where the story has gone from Volume 1. Really cool stuff, so check out Volume 1. If you haven't already, it's pretty decent. If you like Lovecraftian body horror type stuff, I'd recommend it. It's written by Cullen Bunn. It's got Kyle Strahm, Baldemar Rivas, and Crank. It's a really cool stuff, a really great artwork. It's grotesque and viscerally so when it needs to be. If you do pick it up, though, I would encourage you to pick up the single issues because I am in the back of issue #2, my picture. See if you can spot it. Share it in the PCP Army. Farmhand #14 is here from Rob Guillory. Wow, what a crazy issue. Another revelatory issue that really is a turning point in the story. Rob Guillory has just been killing it on this book. It's a great, fun, kooky idea, but he's really turned it into something epic and engaging and enthralling. We're about to hit the halfway point of the series, and I could not be more excited for the future of this series. It's about a dude who develops a seed that can grow body parts. So like bushes with ears. So if you lose your ear, you just put a vegetable ear on it, whatever. Well, of course, it gets creepier and weirder than that. And all of a sudden, you got these worm dogs running around and stuff. Right. I said worm dogs. If you haven't read Farmhand, this is one of the craziest, most wacky comic books out there, but it still maintains this nuance to it. And this great sense of family. Really like it. Mysterious, crazy, hilarious, and tragic, all at the same time. Farmhand number 14 is out this week. From Mad Cave Studios, we have Hellfighter Quinn number 1. This is written by Jay Sandlin. It's from Mad Cave Studios. It's got artwork by Adagun, coloring by Maria Santiala, and Justin Birch on the lettering. I did an advanced review for this one as well, so you can check out that. But this is a little bit like kind of the superhero world meets Mortal Kombat and Bloodsport. So if you like those old school fighting games, you like those fighting movies, I would highly recommend that maybe you give this a shot. I thought it was really solid. Jay Sandlin's been impressing me with his work over at Mad Cave Studios. Over the Ropes is a great one that he's got going on right now about the world of wrestling. This is about the world of illegal fighting tournaments. Maybe it's not illegal, but it's very much Bloodsport, and I love it. And it's pretty cool. I had a lot of fun with this one. If you like those old school video games, check it out. Hellfighter Quinn number 1 from Jay Sandlin and Mad Cave Studios. From Oni Press, we have Dryad number 1. This was an interesting book. It's kind of a fantasy tale. It's about this human man who is married to like an elf, and they have these 2 kids, and they live in this community that's kind of secluded from everything, and they kind of have their own like family problems and drama and stuff going on. It's very much a grounded family drama, just set in a fantasy world. It feels a little bit like a more low-key saga, if that makes sense. But I did like it. I thought it was interesting. When I first started reading it, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be quite for me. It's kind of feeling like saga. But then it didn't really quite get as epic as saga did. It kind of took this more Flintstone-y type approach to it. It's very much of like a family drama. And I really liked that approach. I thought that was an interesting thing to do with a fantasy story involving elves and this magical land they live in and all this kind of stuff. But then when you get to the end, you're like, okay, well, they're still going to reach levels of epicness. Anyway, this is from Curtis Weeb, I believe. Webe. He was the creator of, he's the creator of Rat Queens and Peter Panzerfaust. Anyway, Dryad number 1 is out from Oni Press this week. I kind of liked it. From It's Alive, we have Breathers number 2. This is about a world where the air has become poisoned and everybody has to wear these gas masks, and when you're in your house you have to have these special ventilators and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's a very slow burn, nuanced, personal look at just life, the human tragedy, one could say. It's by Justin Mattson. The first issue came out a couple months ago. It's big. It's like $7.99, but it's really big. It does not take you long to read it, though, but it's got a lot of cool stuff. I think if you really like Jeff Lemire's work, like the Jeff Lemire work that he does himself, especially things like Royal City, I think you might want to check out Breathers. Breathers is really interesting, and it's filled with like this nuance of the human tragedy, and that's what makes it compelling to me. It's got this element of the sci-fi-ness, like why are they wearing these gas masks? You find out some stuff there. I'm sure more is going to develop out of that. Each issue so far has been 3 separate stories that are all kind of tied together in one cohesive town, one cohesive idea. I really like this. The book is nuanced. This book says a lot with a little, and I absolutely love it. Breathers number 2 is out this week. From Vault Comics, we've got Money Shot number 5. This is the finale of the first story arc of Money Shot because it will be returning, and it was a decent conclusion. It was a fun conclusion. Has some cool ideas. The point of the book is coming across. What could be a very vulgar, crude book just for the sake of it isn't. It actually does have heart to it. It's got a message. It's got something important to say, but it just also wants to do some fun, some fun, crude, rude stuff as well. So Money Shot number 5 is out this week from Vault Comics. Also from Vault Comics this week, we got the Plot trade paperback. So if you've been trade waiting this one, the first 4 issues, that's the first story, all in one beautiful, luxurious trade designed by Tim Daniel, Michael Morisi, Josh Hickson, Jordan Boyd, Jim Campbell. This is one of the best horror comic books on shelves right now. It's up there with like Gideon Falls and Ice Cream Man. If you like those books, I highly encourage you to check out The Plot. This book is absolutely fantastic. And another of the greatest horror comic books out currently has its trade out this week, and that's Something is Killing the Children. Book 1, first 5 issues, James Tynion IV, Werther del Edera, and Miguel Muerto from Boom Studios. This is one of the best books of last year. It's probably going to be one of the best books of this year. Something is Killing the Children is amazing. These are 2 absolutely fantastic horror comic books on shelves right now, and if you've missed out, here's your chance to get them in a nice, they're both beautiful trade paperback editions. Maybe we'll do videos for those or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you excited about? What gets you going as far as comic book goes? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at the PCP Army. That's the official Pop Culture Philosophers Facebook group. So if you're on Facebook, hop on over and join the PCP Army, where you can chat with me and other members of the excitable PCP crew fans. PCP crew, our friends, our fans, and our families All of us. We're one big PCP family and couldn't be happier. Anyway, thank you so much for rocking with us. I've been Rockin Robbie Billups. Keep on reading.